Hey, beautiful humans. Welcome back to Healing as a Messy Bitch. My name is Amy Wilhelmi, and today we're talking about two things that make people squirm: trauma and intimacy. And here's the truth, they're not separate. They're tangled together like last year's Christmas lights. Trauma doesn't just mess with your nervous system, it rewrites the way that you love, attach, and show up in relationships. And if we're being real, the culture you grew up in, the religion you were raised in, your gender, your sexual orientation, all of that sets the tone for how safe or how unsafe intimacy feels. So today we're going to dig into one of my favorite composite cases, meet Louis, and explore how a model of integrative trauma treatment can help. So Louis is 28, they're queer and Latino. He grew up in a conservative religious community where being gay just wasn't frowned upon. It was practically like considered a ticket to hell. So by the time he hit adulthood, Louis described himself as asexual by survival. Not because he didn't want intimacy, but because intimacy felt dangerous. So he shut it all down. Dating, sex, casual touch. He dissociated from his body so well that he could have won an Olympic medal for it. And this is what I want you to hear. This wasn't just a personal choice. This was cultural and religious trauma at work. And if you've been there, you know how it feels. The shame, the hypervigilance, the loneliness. And yes, this stuff is very sticky. It lives in your body. It messes with your self-worth. And that's why we can't just rely on self-care and call it healing. Here's where we start weaving Louis' story back together, piece by piece. So ketamine-assisted psychotherapy, or CAP, Louis' first journey was so gorgeous. He saw his younger self barefoot, dancing in his grandmother's garden, just free, and that image cracked something open in him. It softened the shame and let the joy sneak back in. Emotionally focused therapy in EFT, we honored those survival strategies. The emotional numbing, hiding parts of himself. I told him, these strategies are brilliant. They kept you alive. But then we gently explored how they were also keeping him lonely. That's the EFT magic, turning defenses into signals that you're longing for love. EMDR, we processed a memory of being shamed by a pastor. That moment had been living rent-free in his brain for years, and after EMDR was gone, he could think about it without feeling crushed by shame. And then we bring in sex therapy, and this is where it gets spicy. We did mirror work. We did breath work. We did pleasure mapping. And it wasn't about him rushing into sex. It was about helping him reclaim his body as his own. It was about saying, this body is not the enemy. This body is home. And this body is deserving of pleasure. So here's what Louis' story teaches us, and honestly, what it teaches me over and over again. It's such a humbling experience. One, healing has to be culturally responsive. We cannot ignore someone's cultural context and expect them to heal in a bubble. Two, identity matters. Queer folk, people of color, anyone who's been marginalized, they carry wounds that aren't just personal. They're deeply systemic. And we have to work with that, not against it. And we can't ignore it. And three, embodiment is radical. So reclaiming pleasure as a damn revolution. It's saying, I'm allowed to feel good. I'm allowed to take up space. And that is power. That is healing. So why does this story matter for you? Why should you care? If you're a therapist, listen up. Cultural humility isn't optional. It's not some trendy add-on. It's the foundation of good trauma care. And if you're a client, hear this. Your healing path does not have to look like anyone else's. You don't have to rush. You don't have to fit into someone else's narrative. Your culture, your story, your messy timeline, all of that is your strength. Your survival wasn't a mistake. It was brilliant. And now you get to build a life that feels like yours. All right, friends. So that's today's episode of Healing is a Messy Bitch. Next week, we're going to talk about one of the most overlooked and honestly most badass parts of trauma, reclaiming pleasure. Because yes, pleasure after trauma is possible. And yes, it is allowed. If this episode hit home in any way, hit that subscribe button, drop a comment, and share this with someone who needs to know that they're not broken. They're just in the middle of their healing story. See you next week.